Hey, good morning. My name is Scott McCutcheon. Welcome to episode 9 of my Yamaha Virago Cafe Racer project. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry that I've taken a couple weeks to post a new video. I'm trying to do a little more learning about this bike, figure out the wiring harness, and I've been teaching myself a new skill, i.e. welding, which you can see my setup far back there. I've been teaching myself how to weld, essentially so that we could finish a couple of projects on this guy, make him a little more custom. We'll get into that a little bit further, maybe in this video, maybe in a future video, but we'll definitely be getting to it soon. But there's a few projects that on this bike that end up require welding, or that I want to do that require welding. So if you're following along building your own cafe racer, welding is a skill you would benefit by having. So I recommend, if you have the ability, try and figure it out. There's a ton of YouTube videos out there already that can teach you how to weld. That's how I'm trying to figure it out. I don't have anybody to show me how to weld, so my first few attempts have been terrible, but I'm slowly getting the hang of it. I'm getting better at it, and as I get better at it, I'm going to start finishing up some of the projects that require here. Unfortunately, it's taking me a little bit more time than I'd like, so some of these videos are going to have to wait. But for now, we're going to do some of the small stuff that we can get taken care of. So today, I thought we could look at replacing the control levers. I picked up some nice adjustable ones. We'll get that done. And I got some new grips for it. We'll do that. And I figured while we're at it, we can fix up this busted piece here and look at what it's going to take to finish up the front end. So let's get started. So for now, let's just go ahead and look at these guys. We'll start with the levers and the grips. These are your pretty standard sport bike adjustable levers, for clutch and throttle, or clutch and brake, I mean. And then of course these grips are these Pro Grip, what are these, 717s? I've always been really impressed with Pro Grips. I run them on my CBRs, and pretty much all my other bikes. I forget exactly what model these are, but I've really liked them, so I went with another set of Pro Grips. So we're gonna go ahead and install these. And again, these were easy to find, pretty inexpensive, because I mean a Yamaha R6 is a relatively common bike. So let's go ahead and knock this stuff out. Okay, so we'll start with the brake side lever. You can see these, it looks like whatever bike this came off of had been down a few times, right? Little scratches there. It looks to me like they might even be bent a little bit. They definitely feel a little bent. Like feels like it might be angled down too far. So, in my opinion, these are trash. But as you can see, it's pretty easy to take apart. It's really just going to be this one pin right here. It looks like a 10mm nut, and we'll pop that guy out. Let me, I think I've already got a 10 on there, right? These are all flathead type screwdrivers. Yeah. And then of course you see this pin is still threaded up to a point, after which you can just pull it out. With that in place, you can just slide that thing out. Then we'll replace it with one of these. So these are the what they call, I guess, shorty levers. It's this one. So you can see it's significantly shorter than the OEM lever. But importantly, it's also adjustable, so you can get a little bit of an extra space while you grip it, depending on who's riding. So you'll see they already got all the proper mounting points. So easy peasy. We just slide it on in there. Make sure that the pin sits into the recessed pocket there correctly. Pin for the switch, and you just slide the main pin back in. Put the nut back on the pin there, and then tighten it down. And you're pretty much done with the brake side. Fancy, right? So you can adjust it up a little bit to give yourself some more space. I usually like to keep mine at 6. I do the same thing on my CBR into the back. My CBR is at 1, but that's the CBR. This guy feels pretty good right about there, right around 6, so I like it. Looks sharp. Let's get the other side. Okay, so the clutch side is a little more complicated because you have the cable. So you can see mine's already a little loose, and that's because obviously it's not mounted down at the bottom. This is the Yamaha R6 clutch cable, which unfortunately, while works and is arguably the correct length, it doesn't have the little step joint that the stock Virago cable has for mounting. So if I can find that thing real fast, I'll show you. This is the stock cable for the Yamaha Virago, and unfortunately this one's in really poor shape. Otherwise I might try to use it. Yeah, it's in poor shape, so I don't think it's going to work too well for me. I mean, it might after a cable lube. But it's a little long anyway. But either way, the stock Virago cable has basically this step joint that, when seated in there, makes it really hard for this cable to move. Just an interference fit. I'm actually surprised that works, but it seems to actually work real well. Unfortunately, you know, the R6 cable doesn't have that, as you can see. So, you know, I'm to a point where I'm not exactly sure how to do this other than order, you know, a custom cable in the length of the R6 cable, but with a step cap in for the Virago. And I only know of one company that does that, Motion Pro, who could probably do that. I might end up, I've got a cable lube tool in the mail. It's not here yet, but once I have that, I might try lubing this cable and see if I can just use this. Because if I can use the stock Virago cable, yeah, it might be a little long, but at least it would work. You know, but I'm not sure on that just yet. You know, so as much as I'd like to finish mounting the cables, we're not going to. Instead, we're just going to look at removing it. So that we can get the other lever put in. So, I don't know, you can see this one still looks a little bent. I don't know if that's how the R6 levers just are from the factory. But I mean, this one's obviously scuffed up too, so maybe it dropped on both sides and bent the shit out of those levers. Not really sure. Either way, you know, they're struggling. So in order to remove this guy, we have this adjustment piece here. It's pretty common for just about every bike, or every sport bike, after which you can just kind of pull the cable apart and get it out of there. Like I said, I'm not sure that cable is going to work out for me. I've looked at some various other various ways to mount this cable in there, and I'm just not sure any of them are going to work. I thought about maybe trying to get, like, where is it? Thought about maybe trying to get like something like this, that I could mount over that, and thread in there, and then maybe if I, threaded the hole here, I could spin this piece. This is the original Virago adjustment piece, after which I could connect them, and that might actually work, something like that, if this was actually mounted inside that hole. And it would provide me a little bit of adjustment down here, as well as up there. But the whole thing just seems janky, and then you have to go to the trouble of, threading the actual metal of the engine cover, and if you mess it up, or get it too bad, you're going to have to replace this whole thing. And I don't want to have to do that. That's a little too custom for me. So, I'm not exactly sure what to do with the clutch cable just yet. So we're going to leave it alone for today. But we're going to go ahead and knock this guy out. So with the clutch cable out, you can see that, we just have the switch there, and it pretty much is the same deal as the brake side, where we just have a single pin and what looks to be a 10mm nut. And so this one doesn't actually require the flathead screwdriver to keep in place. As you can see, it's slotted, so the screw itself can actually hold itself in place. Then of course, just like the other one, this guy pops right out. And of course, same deal here. Shorter, straighter, and adjustable. It's worth noting that there's a fair amount of play right there. And these aftermarket ones, I'm not super happy with that. So it's probably worth taking that spacer that seems to be part of this OEM tool. Look, it just pops out. Actually, I don't have to go to any trouble at all. So that was convenient. And of course, make sure it slides on into your new one. There it is. Now you can slide it in properly. Don't forget that. And at this point, you would, just slide the cable back in. That actually seems a little too tight. There you go. Alright, so yeah, you would slide the cable back in, and the cable would, too loose now. Alright, and the cable would help pop that guy back up. But like I said, we're not going to mess with the clutch cable today, unfortunately. I'd really like to figure out a better way to do that, so if you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comments. But for now, I feel like that looks pretty good. New levers, right? So let's do the grips. Okay, so the grips can be a real pain to take off, but hopefully you know, they're not going to be too bad on these. They're a definite pain to take off on the CBR, so I'm kind of expecting they're going to be the same here. So either way, first thing we're going to do is we're going to want to pull the bar ends off. You can see these are pretty scuffed up, so I might tap these with some spray paint while I have them off. But you see they're just some Allen wrenches, of which what size are these? HW5? I don't know what that means. 5mm. You can just pop them right out. Easy peasy, right? And there's a reason these things are so heavy. They're actually bar end weights, and they're there for dampening to make the handlebars a little smoother. Right? Just smooth it out a little bit, get some of that surface rust off. Just cause, make it a little nicer looking. So as for the boot itself, you should just be able to peel them back. A little tough, but those are the OEM R6 grips, which trash. So then of course we have the Pro Grip 717s, and I feel like they are a little different. One of them is for the clutch side and one of them is for the throttle side, and I am not exactly sure which. You can see they are a little different. It's just going to be a bear to get them on, so something you may want to consider is that maybe we can slap this with a little WD-40 to get things moving. These are pretty sticky. And there you go. They'll fit. Just takes a little effort. Okay, let's do the other side. The other side is more of the same. You're just gonna loosen the Allen bolt there. We'll do the same thing for this bar end that we did for the other one. Sand it down and tap it with a bit of paint. Get rid of some of this gross rusted look. Alright, and then as far as removing this one, it's pretty much the same deal. Luckily that one came off a lot easier. I guess it really doesn't matter. I think this one was designed for the throttle side simply because of the indent, but the nature of this bike is that, you know, it didn't have a need for that. So, whatever. So be it. But yeah, I do think this was the throttle side. That's fine. No big deal. A little too good. Okay, so I was wrong. It very much does matter which side you put these on. So we already saw the removal and installation of the this grip, so I'm not going to show you this again. But you do want the grip that has an indent on the throttle side. The reason for that is because this one actually has a slightly larger diameter than this one does. Okay, so if you saw me just a moment ago slide this grip onto this handle, you saw it slide off real easily. This one does not do that. It has a slightly smaller diameter to it. You know, so this is the one that you want to get onto the left-hand side of the bike. Make sure that you have the flat side on the left-hand side and the indented side on the throttle side. Another good indicator that I didn't realize until after I had obviously already installed them is that ProGrip, they print their logo and the model number of the grip right side up, so it's legible while you're riding. So if you were sitting on the bike, you should be able to read the 717 on both handlebars. Obviously, if you flip them around, now the 717 is going to be upside down, proving that it's incorrect. So you want to make sure that you get that right. Because the reason for that is obviously that you'll end up, you know, like I did, it'll be really hard to get the throttle side on because it's too small, and this one will go on way too easily and slide off all the time, so you won't have a very good grip on the handlebar, which is just straight up not safe. It's not what you want. So so you want to make sure you have the correct grips on the correct side. After which they just slide on, easy peasy, and then you got your grips. But I guess that's that for now. We got new grips, we got new levers, and we're in pretty good shape. The last thing I wanted to fix, I kind of did it off camera already. I wanted to fix this busted mount here. You know, so the brake reservoir, when I bought this thing off eBay, was flopping around, had been broken. But this is a pretty obvious and intuitive fix. I just went and grabbed a brand new OEM mount, or mounting bracket, right? And then real simply, you know, it just has two bolts right there. There's a spacer that goes inside this one, and then of course this threaded mounting clasp there to hold this guy in place. So that ends up being a good fix too. Okay, I figured we go ahead and mount up the headlamp as well real quick, just so that we get to see what it will look like, and in case we need to find any other pieces to make it fit, and I don't know, we'll just give it a shot. So as I said, I went and picked up a headlamp already, which is this, and I think it's going to work out really well. I really like the style of the headlamp itself, but this one that they sent me is trash. So it's supposed to have a glass face here. It was broken when I got my hands on it. I'm not going to disassemble it again. but the glass piece had been broken during shipping, so that thing ended up being trash. I'm not going to go dig out the glass, but you can see some of it down in there. Basically, this thing ends up being real simple to wire. So I guess this thing won't work on 9 volts, but let's see if we can stretch the wires enough to make sure it actually does work. Essentially, it'd be ground, right, and a power, right, fancy, and then I think this is high beam, or no, I guess that's low beam, right, high beam. Both moderately the same. So, I mean, this thing does work. It's just, you know, it's junky because the clasps are junky. And I mean, it wasn't that expensive to begin with, I guess, so it's going to be junky, kind of. But with the glass face in there, it would sit flush and not flop around, you know, having been manufactured that way. But once it's broken, I mean, it's broken. I mean, I have to find a new glass face, which may or may not be possible, but then I also have to figure out how to put these clasps back in, and they're kind of janky. So I'm hoping that they'll send me, well, they are sending me another one, but I'm hoping that the next one arrives intact. So kudos to them for at least sending me the other one instead of me having to deal with this one. You can see it's pretty marred up from having sat in the box with all that broken glass. So even if I could get it back together, I mean, it's kind of janky, but for what it is, this will allow me to at least mount the headlamp and kind of get an idea of what it would look like once it's in place. But importantly, this will let me test the brackets that I picked up. So this headlamp, when I bought it, like I said, I think it was about 35 or 40 bucks on eBay somewhere. It came shipped from China. You know, so it works moderately well for what it is and its price. It was in a good price range. It comes with these brackets, you know, and these brackets are junk. So if you end up buying one of these, like I've done, do not use these brackets. They're really thin billet aluminum, I think. But I mean, I can basically bend them by hand, you know. And importantly, they're not the right diameter. So as you can see, even if you press that into shape, you know, you might be able to get that around a 24 millimeter fork, maybe. But the real trick is that you're gonna have to drop some cash on some good brackets for the R6. So if you want these cafe racer style brackets on the R6 fork clamps, the R6 forks are 52 millimeter, so you're going to need clamps that are 52 or 53 millimeter to go around here. So we're going to go get these mounted up, and you can see that these are way better. Not only do they fit the fork, but they also have some adjustment here, which will make it nice for mounting various types of headlights. Hopefully they will accommodate mine. So you can see with the clamps, we also have some 3M type rubber tape that you'll put around the inside of these races to help protect your forks and reduce noise. Then we got these 2 little spacers here. I want to say they're going to slide in right here. I want to say they're going to slide in like that so that we can mount the headlamp. Okay, so in order to mount these brackets, you'll notice that the brackets themselves kind of have this angled bit. That right there kind of helps either make a downward or upward sweep to how you want to mount your headlamp. I assume you can kind of do this either way you want to. I don't think it's important as to which way you choose. For me, I think I'm going to mount them so that we have this sort of downward sweep. The reason being that when mounted angled, the headlamp will come out a little more straight out towards the bike, or out towards the front of the bike. So I think we're going to go with the downward kind of angle. But obviously you can see that these just sort of unroll if you keep all your tools together. Right? And so you see they kind of just unclamp, and we'll clamp them around the forks like so. So the trick is that we want to get these mounted as high up as possible. So we almost want to get them touching. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be possible to get some of these things in there. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So that one can slide in just fine. We'll get to that in a second. As far as this one goes, I think we're actually going to end up having to remove some of these little bits here. So let's find out. Yeah, so it does look like that's going to be a little too tight to actually get this up there, but it looks like once it's in place, it won't be that big of a deal. But for the time being, I think it's prudent to remove the entire brake line to get this up here. But before we go to do that, let's go ahead and get this one mounted. So the bracket kit comes with this 3M tape. This tape is designed to kind of give you a rubber surface to mount these guys on. So what we want is for this to wrap around the fork where we're going to be mounting the again, we want to get it as high up as possible. Alright, one down. I guess as far as aligning these things, I'm just going to try and make it so that, you know, I have good access both to the bolt over here as well as the bolt up top. I guess it'd be helpful if I would stop losing shit. The fuck happened to that? Spectacular. There it is. So, it turns out that I'm going to need some thicker tape for these 53 millimeter clamps. Okay, so it turns out the rubber tape that they sent me isn't really thick enough, or that they sent me in the bracket kit. It's not really thick enough to mount onto these 52 millimeter forks. So these are technically 53 millimeter brackets, and that 1 millimeter difference really does make a difference and allows it to flop up and down. So I'm hoping that I can use this this double-sided tape here and get myself in a position that you know, that I now have thickness capable of clamping those things down and holding them in place. Hopefully this will work. I guess we're about to find out. I'm a little skeptical about the whole thing, but it might turn out better than I think. We'll see. So we're basically going to cut this to the same length. And with that tape in place, we still want to use the rubber that they provided, which, in addition to giving us a bit more thickness, will look better and not be adhesive, like that tape I just put on is. And so with all that extra thickness, I'm moving now these clamps. You know, we'll be able to tighten down and have an easier time staying tight. It feels pretty good. Maybe that's gonna work out. Yeah, and you see now we have some extra stiffness there. Alright, and so that'll actually add the thickness that we need right there. Alright, so as for the next one, we're gonna have to kind of like eyeball it, sort of, to find out where the tape needs to be. But we'll do the same thing here. And then same deal with the rubber tape they sent us with the bracket. After which then we can tighten the clamp. Then of course you'll just want to make sure that they're tightened down as best as they can be. After which now you have a nice and sturdy headlamp bracket. We're going to leave them loosened here a bit, you know, so that we can tighten them down when we're ready. Like I said, to get this one, I think we're going to have to pull off the brake thing here in order to be able to slide it up past the brake line. So you can either remove the brake line or you can remove it directly from the handlebar, which I think is probably the easiest way to do it. Well, because if you remove it from the handlebar, you're not going to have to drain the brake fluid, which is obviously much more simple. So of course then this piece just kind of moves out of the way. Yeah, we should have enough space. We're going to end up getting rid of these throttle cables eventually, but not today. We'll leave them alone for today. So we'll go ahead and cut a bit more tape here. Make sure it's good and tight there. Then again, sweeping downward angle. You want to make sure that where you have them mounted, you'll be able to get a moderately accurate angle out of your headlamps. And you'll notice I have no space to actually tighten this thing down, which hopefully can be solved here with Allen key. Alright, make sure that one's tight. And then of course, we'll do the same thing down here. Okay. And then of course, we clamp this one down the same way. And so now we got some new headlamp brackets. I think that looks pretty good. So as far as actually mounting the headlamp in place, like I said, this one is busted. These brackets are junk. We can pretty much forget about them. You see, the trick here is that you need these screws here to slide in place. Okay. And unfortunately, the nature of it is you can't get down at them unless you pull the housing off. So with the housing off, then you can see that these bolts simply slide out. Oh, look at that. They actually engineered that correctly. You don't actually have to do that. Now, it would have been better if they were tack welded in place. But I suppose that's good to know. Okay, so again, this isn't going to be the the true headlamp I use, so don't worry about it. But it is going to be the same style, and should mount similarly. So we're gonna roll with it. Either way, we have these two little spacers that came with the bracket kit. I really thought there would have been 4, but there's not. There's only 2. So we're gonna use one on the outside of the outside. No, my bad. We're going to use them on the inside, the headlamp side. Because on the other side we're going to have this, which is a washer and a lock nut tied to that bolt. So basically that slides in through here, and you slide this into place. My understanding of this is that there's enough space here that we're also going to use this position to mount the turn signals. So my turn signals haven't come in yet. They were like 15 or 20 bucks. Also from China, shipped. So they're taking a little while, but I think they're going to be really nice once they're in place. Okay. Let me go ahead and tighten down the clamps on this guy and make sure those are all tightened down real good. And so now you'd have your headlamp. I'm not going to go to the trouble of tightening these down. Like I said, I think we're going to use them for the turn signals as well. But you would basically just tighten this guy down. And once in place, we make a pretty good headlamp. and finally you'll want to mount this brake piece back on where it belongs. You'll see we have some just barely enough good clearance in there, to avoid everything. So that'll work out real well. Go ahead and tighten that back down, and then you're pretty much done. So that's a headlamp. Don't think it looks too bad. In fact, I think it actually looks really great, and once I get a non-broken one, I think it'll be real sharp. Okay, great. I hope you enjoyed episode 9 of the Yamaha Virago build project. We got a lot done today on the front end. I think it looks pretty good. Fixing up the grips and the controls and the headlamp and the little bracket there that was busted. I think we're in pretty good shape. Real soon we'll do the gauge cluster and then do all the wiring and the cables, and the front end will be pretty close to being done. So should be great. Alright, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you did, hit like, subscribe, maybe check out my game on Ethereal Legends on Steam. If you enjoy Dark Souls, you might like that one too. Hopefully next time in the next episode, hopefully we're to the point where we can start doing the rear monoshock, which is a real big bit that I've been waiting on, and the primary reason I'm teaching myself welding over there. So we'll get to it hopefully in the next episode. Alright, enjoy it, and we'll catch up with you next time. Thanks.